My beloved child, last night something happened that you need to hear before you decide what your face, your appearance, or your reflection says about your worth. Stay till the end, because this story begins with a simple sentence, but it leads somewhere you may never expect. Someone looked at you and said, "When you don't apply makeup, you look like just a." Then they stopped. They did not finish the sentence. And somehow, that unfinished sentence stayed in your mind long after the room became quiet. You replayed it again and again, wondering what they were about to say, wondering whether they were about to judge you, criticize you, or reveal something you had been afraid to hear. But don't skip, because the words that were left unsaid were not the most important part of what happened. Something huge is waiting for you, and before this story ends, you are going to understand why that moment happened at exactly the right time. Last night, while everything around you seemed ordinary, something changed. A thought that had been quietly controlling the way you saw yourself was suddenly exposed. You may have believed that makeup made you beautiful and that without it you became less noticeable, less impressive, less worthy of attention. But what if the truth was completely different? What if the face you have been trying to improve was never the problem? What if the world taught you to hide the very thing that makes your presence unforgettable? Stay till the end. Don't skip. Because the next part of this story is not about makeup at all. It is about the moment someone finally sees beyond the surface. There was a strange silence after those unfinished words, and that silence said more than a complete sentence ever could. You waited. You looked at them. For a second, you expected embarrassment, criticism, maybe even laughter. But instead, they looked at you differently. Not with pity. Not with judgment. With surprise. It was almost as if they had suddenly noticed something they had overlooked before. They said, "You look like just a." And again, they paused. This time, their expression changed. Then came the words you were not expecting, "You look like just a real person." That sentence sounded simple, almost too simple, but it carried a weight you could feel. Because somewhere along the way, you had forgotten that being real could be beautiful. You had become so accustomed to filters, polished photographs, carefully chosen angles, perfect lighting, and the expectation that every imperfection needed to be corrected that an unfiltered face could feel like a revelation. But last night, something became clear. The version of you that appears when you stop trying to impress everyone may be the version people remember the longest. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, and it begins with this realization: beauty is not always loud. Sometimes beauty enters a room quietly, without announcing itself. Sometimes it is found in tired eyes, natural expressions, genuine smiles, and the peaceful face of someone who no longer feels the need to prove anything. And perhaps that is why the unfinished sentence affected you so deeply. You were not waiting to hear what they thought about your appearance. You were waiting to hear whether you were enough. Then something even more unexpected happened. The person who had spoken those words told you that they had noticed something about you long before last night. They said that when you wore makeup, people often noticed your appearance first. But when you did not, they noticed your expression. They noticed the way your eyes changed when you spoke about something you cared about. They noticed the little smile that appeared when you were trying not to laugh. They noticed how your face became softer when you felt safe. They noticed the person behind the presentation. And suddenly, the title of this story took on an entirely different meaning. When you don't apply makeup, you look like just a. The sentence was never supposed to end with an insult. It was pointing toward something far more surprising. You look like someone who does not need permission to exist exactly as they are. You look like someone who survived difficult moments without turning cold. You look like someone whose beauty cannot be reduced to a cosmetic routine. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. Because perhaps the most shocking revelation is not that someone noticed your natural face. It is that you had stopped noticing yourself. You had become so focused on how others might see you that you forgot to ask how you felt when you looked into your own eyes. Last night, that changed. Imagine standing in front of a mirror and seeing yourself without immediately searching for something to fix. No criticism. No comparison. No measuring yourself against someone else's photograph. Just you. For many people, that moment feels uncomfortable because they have been trained to examine themselves instead of experience themselves. They look at their skin before they look at their smile. They notice a small imperfection before noticing the strength in their expression. They compare their features before remembering everything those features have witnessed. But your face is not a report card. Your reflection is not a verdict. You are not required to look perfect to deserve kindness. And you certainly do not need to transform yourself before you can be worthy of love, respect, or attention. Stay till the end, because there is a reason this message is reaching you now. Maybe you have recently felt overlooked. Maybe someone made a careless comment that stayed with you. Maybe you have been comparing yourself with people who appear flawless on a screen. Maybe you have been wondering why you do not feel confident even when you look exactly the way you wanted to look. The answer may be that confidence was never hiding inside makeup. Confidence begins when you stop treating your natural self as something that needs an apology. Don't skip. The next realization may change the way you see your own reflection. Think about how often people spend more time preparing their appearance than preparing their hearts for the day. They carefully choose what others will see, but rarely ask what they themselves need. They cover what they consider imperfect, but rarely celebrate what makes them different. They become experts at presentation while becoming strangers to their own identity. And maybe you have done the same without realizing it. Maybe you have looked into the mirror and asked, "Do I look good enough?" When the better question was, "Do I feel like myself?" There is a difference. One question asks for approval. The other asks for truth. Last night, that difference became impossible to ignore. The person standing across from you was not seeing a before and after picture. They were seeing a complete human being. They were seeing someone with memories, fears, dreams, kindness, resilience, and a story that no cosmetic product could ever create. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, and it is connected to something you may have misunderstood for years. You thought people were drawn to perfection. But the people who truly matter are often drawn to authenticity. They remember the laugh you could not control. They remember the conversation where you spoke honestly. They remember the moment you encouraged them when you were struggling yourself. They remember how you made them feel. And none of those memories required perfect makeup, but there was one final detail from last night that changed everything. Just before the conversation ended, the person looked at you and said something that made you completely silent. They said, "Do you know what I noticed when you walked in without makeup?" You expected another comment about your face. Instead, they said, "You looked peaceful." That word stayed with you. Peaceful. Not perfect. Not flawless. Not glamorous. Peaceful. And suddenly you understood why the moment had felt so different. When you stop performing for everyone else, something inside you becomes visible. Your natural expression can reveal a kind of freedom that no cosmetic product can manufacture. This does not mean makeup is bad. It does not mean you should stop wearing it. Wear it if you enjoy it. Create whatever look makes you happy. But never let it become the price you believe you must pay to feel worthy. That is the difference. Makeup can be a form of creativity, but it should never become a requirement for self-respect. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Because we are getting closer to the part of the story that explains why those words appeared in your life at this particular moment. Something huge is waiting for you, and it may have nothing to do with changing your appearance. It may be about changing the way you speak to yourself when nobody else is listening. There is a version of you that only appears when the pressure disappears. That version does not constantly check the mirror. That version does not wonder whether everyone approves. That version laughs more freely, rests more deeply, and speaks more honestly. Maybe you met that version of yourself last night. Maybe for a few minutes, you forgot to monitor how you looked. You simply existed. And that may have been the most beautiful thing anyone noticed. Because when you are comfortable in your own presence, people can feel it. There is a quiet confidence in someone who is no longer fighting their own reflection. It does not demand attention. It does not compete. It simply exists. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you, because the next truth is even more powerful. The person you have been trying so hard to become may not be the person you were meant to become. Perhaps you were never meant to look like everyone else. Perhaps your purpose is not to become more acceptable but more authentic. The world already has countless copies of the same image. What it cannot replace is your exact expression, your exact voice, your exact story, your exact way of making someone feel understood. And here is where the unfinished sentence finally makes sense. When you don't apply makeup, you look like just a, not less, not ordinary, not incomplete. You look like someone whose identity is still visible. Someone whose face tells a story without needing decoration. Someone who has experienced nights when confidence disappeared and mornings when courage returned. Someone who has cried privately and still shown kindness publicly. Someone who has been disappointed and still chosen hope. Someone who may have doubted themselves but continued moving forward anyway. That is what they were trying to say. And perhaps you needed to hear it because you have been measuring yourself with the wrong ruler. You have been measuring appearance when life has been measuring character. You have been measuring symmetry when life has been measuring courage. You have been measuring attention when life has been measuring impact. Stay till the end. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you, and the biggest surprise is that your greatest transformation may not be visible in a mirror at all. So tonight, when you look at yourself again, pause before judging what you see. Look at your eyes. Think about everything they have witnessed. Think about every morning you got up even when you did not feel ready. Think about every moment you chose to keep going. Think about every person you helped without receiving applause. Think about the dreams you still carry. Then look at your face without asking whether it is perfect. Ask whether it is yours. Because there is something incredibly powerful about finally recognizing yourself without conditions. You do not have to reject makeup. You do not have to reject fashion. You do not have to reject beauty. You simply have to reject the belief that your worth disappears when the decoration disappears. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, and maybe the real revelation from last night was never about how you looked without makeup. It was about what happened when someone looked at you and saw more than your appearance. They saw you. Completely. Naturally. Honestly. And for a moment, you saw yourself through their eyes too. Now remember this moment, because there may come a day when you forget everything you heard here. You may wake up and compare yourself again. You may scroll through photographs and wonder why you do not look like someone else. You may hear a careless remark and carry it longer than you should. When that happens, remember last night. Remember the unfinished sentence. Remember the pause. Remember the word that changed everything, real. Because you do not need to become someone else to become unforgettable. You do not need to hide every imperfection to become beautiful. And you do not need to wait for someone else's approval before you recognize your own value. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, and this is only the beginning of the story. What happened last night was not a final answer. It was a door opening. Behind that door is a truth about confidence, identity, and the strange moment when you stop trying to be impressive and finally become comfortable being yourself. And once you understand that truth, the way you see your reflection may never be the same again. My beloved child, something happened last night that I cannot let you ignore, because what you are about to hear may completely change the way you see yourself. There was a moment when everything became strangely quiet, and in that silence, a truth appeared that had been hidden behind appearances, expectations, and the opinions of other people. You may have clicked this video because of the title, wondering what someone could possibly say about the way you look without makeup. But stay till the end, because the real message is not about makeup at all. It is about the version of you that exists when nobody is watching, when there is no mirror to impress, no camera to prepare for, and no outside voice telling you whether you are beautiful enough. Don't skip this part, because something huge is waiting for you, and the revelation coming later will connect to something you may have experienced recently without understanding its meaning. Last night, I realized something that felt almost impossible to explain. Sometimes the moment you think you look ordinary is exactly the moment your true beauty becomes impossible to hide. And there is a reason you needed to hear this now. Imagine waking up before the world has had a chance to speak to you. No perfect lighting. No carefully chosen angle. No filter. No preparation. Just you. You look into the mirror, perhaps noticing the small things you usually try to correct, and suddenly a familiar thought appears: I don't look the same without makeup. But what if that thought was never really yours? What if you learned it from years of watching advertisements, photographs, screens, comparisons, and carefully edited images? What if you were taught to examine your face instead of experiencing your life? Stay till the end, because this is where the story begins to turn. Something huge is waiting for you, and it has nothing to do with becoming someone else. Last night, there was a realization hidden inside an ordinary moment. The face you see before you transform it is not a lesser version of you. It is the original version. The unedited version. The version that has survived every difficult morning, every sleepless night, every private disappointment, every moment when you smiled even though your heart was tired. Don't skip, because the next part of this truth goes much deeper than appearance. Here is the strange thing nobody tells you: people often remember presence more than perfection. They may forget the exact shade of lipstick you wore, the details of your hairstyle, or whether your skin looked flawless that day. But they remember how you made them feel. They remember the person whose eyes seemed sincere. They remember the smile that appeared naturally. They remember the voice that made them feel understood. And sometimes, the person who spends the most time criticizing their own appearance is completely unaware of the impact they already have on others. That is why you must stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, and the title you clicked is only the doorway. The real revelation is about why you have been measuring your worth using something that was never designed to measure it. Makeup can enhance a feature, create a style, or help someone express themselves. And there is nothing wrong with that. But it should never become a condition for believing you deserve to be seen. Don't skip this message, because there may come a day when you realize that the face you once tried so hard to hide was never something you needed to apologize for. Now listen carefully, because this is where last night's moment becomes personal. There are seasons when you look at yourself and see only what you think is missing. You notice what could be smoother, brighter, thinner, fuller, younger, sharper, or different. You zoom in on tiny details that nobody else would ever notice. You compare your reflection with someone else's carefully selected photograph and then wonder why you do not feel enough. But your reflection cannot tell your whole story. It cannot show the courage it took to get out of bed when you felt exhausted. It cannot display the kindness you showed when nobody thanked you. It cannot reveal the battles you quietly won. It cannot measure the number of times you chose to continue when quitting would have been easier. And that is why I need you to stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because the biggest surprise is not that you can look beautiful without makeup. The biggest surprise is that your value was never located in your appearance in the first place. Don't skip, because once you understand that, the title suddenly sounds completely different. There was a moment last night when the question changed. Instead of asking, "How do I look?" the deeper question became, "Who am I when I stop trying to prove that I look good?" Think about that for a second. Who are you when there is no audience? Who are you when nobody is rating you? Who are you when you stop comparing your face to someone else's? Who are you when you simply exist without needing permission to feel worthy? Stay till the end, because this is the point where something huge begins to unfold. You may discover that the person you have been searching for is not hidden underneath makeup. That person has been present underneath every insecurity, every comparison, every photograph you disliked. And every day you thought you were not attractive enough. Don't skip. The world has spent years teaching you how to change your appearance, but perhaps what you need now is to change the way you look at yourself. And those are two completely different things. Listen to this carefully. There is a kind of beauty that becomes stronger when it is no longer trying to convince anyone. It is found in comfort. It is found in confidence. It is found in the ability to walk into a room without wondering whether everyone is judging you. It is found in the quiet freedom of knowing that your face does not have to be perfect for your life to be meaningful. And perhaps that is why something happened last night. Perhaps the important moment was not something dramatic happening outside you. Perhaps the real event was a shift inside you, a realization that the person you had been criticizing deserves the same compassion you would give to someone you deeply love. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting for you. Stay till the end, because there is another layer to this story, and it concerns the way other people may have been seeing you while you were busy judging yourself. You may have been focusing on the one thing you disliked while someone else was noticing your warmth, your expression, your energy, your confidence, or simply the way you made an ordinary moment feel special.